So, wrapping up what happened at BlizzCon. Yesterday was the last day of BlizzCon, where we got some more news and info regarding 9.0.5 and 9.1 and some of the plans that Blizzard has in mind for the systems and the activities in the game, what we're going to be seeing and what we can expect in the future patch, or we can say patches. So, starting from what we started in the last video, in the same way, it's flying. The last bit of details regarding flying, some of which were already speculated, but now they are basically confirmed. The Pathfinder coming in 9.1 will not have to do with things like reputation. So you don't have to get several reputations at a certain level. Now it's just going to be following your own Covenant storyline. So what is interesting regarding this system is that, remember that it is very likely that flying will be unlocked at a certain renown level, and we do know that renown is still going to be capped in its acquisition. So even though 9.1 is technically when flying will be available, it's probably going to take you a few weeks before you actually get to the renown level required to reach and unlock flying. There are going to be 40 more renown levels, so you won't have to do all 40 of them to unlock flying, but probably quite a few. Also interesting, this is the type of expansion where flying won't actually get you from each zone, because each of the zones is basically in its own instance, so you won't be able to fly from one zone to the next. On to a bit more important news, we have the news regarding PvE content, so raids and dungeons. The news regarding raids that was added is finally some words regarding the gearing system, the loot system for raids. Sylvanas Kostas, in one of his interviews, has basically admitted the problems regarding raiding and the loot system, because as was speculated, as I myself speculated as well, Blizzard pointed out how okay they were with the PvP loot system, and then he added that the reason why 9.0.5 is going to come out with Valor points is because they acknowledged the situation for Mythic Plus players was even worse than Mythic Raiders, so that's why they felt they had to push out this new system for Mythic Plus, but at the same time they still acknowledge the problem regarding the loot system for raids, so he started speculating, not really telling us anything yet, but some systems regarding the possibility of extra features and extra rewards for the raiding scene. So the fact that at least there is going to be something, we don't know what yet at all, but at least there is the, good faith promise that something is going to come. As for the dungeon, we actually didn't get too much of anything regarding the dungeon, except for the fact that we do have the confirmation there is going to be a hard mode, just like Mechagon had a hard mode, so they are going to be repeating this type of extra addition for players, especially because there's not going to be Mythic Plus for the dungeon, so because the difficulty of the dungeon is going to be locked by the item level, because it doesn't scale like Mythic Plus does, eventually you're going to outgear the dungeon, so with a hard mode is going to give you a little bit of extra that you can do in this new mega dungeon. We do also have a pseudo update for raiding, which is going to be tier sets, actual tier sets. So tier bonuses and whatnot is not going to come in 9.1. It's something that they have planned for the future. Which future, we don't know. The only tier set coming in 9.1 is going to be the appearance related tier set. So they are going to be taking the legendary teams, the legendary transmog system, and basically cook it into the loot available in the new raid. So the Sanctum of Domination is basically going to have all the different armor sets from your runecrafting system and put it together into a set, recolor it multiple times for the different armor types, and just call it a day. So that's what's going to be available in the next raid. Still, regarding PvE, they touched on the multiple legendary system, not really saying much of anything. Again, the typical, oh, we are really excited about it, we are looking into it, but we can't say much right now. You will have to wait and see in the near future. This type of thing doesn't mean much, just that it's not going to be there in 9.1. That's the more important thing. They then touched on Torghast, and they added a few things regarding Torghast. Yes, there's going to be new layers, there's going to be new enemies, new environments, an entire new wing, new rewards, and all of that. However, the main thing regarding Torghast is when Sylvanas Kostas also talked about the punishments you can get in Torghast for losing, for dying, without getting any reward, and also the fact that Torghast right now feels like it's the only, mandatory activity you have to do for player power, because you need your soul ash every week. So it's not even much of a challenge, it's not even much of a roguelike, it's more like of your island expedition duty every week from BFA. It's not that exciting. So we've got some news regarding Torghast where they are planning to removing the death counter in Torghast. Of course, we're going to be fighting the Taragru in the new raid, so if he dies, who is going to stop you from dying multiple times in Torghast? What is more interesting is one of Ion Zikostas' hints or possibilities. He mentioned, what if instead we had more of a rating or a score, where it was more of a spectrum, a continuum of success and trying to do better, trying to be more efficient, trying to be faster or have fewer deaths, but you also had some rewards to show for it. So we might be seeing Torghast IO in the near future. I'm sure many people are going to be happy about this, you know, the ones who have currently Raider IO on a stand accused of crimes against humanity. They are totally going to be thrilled about this system for Torghast. Although before you get too mad, remember Torghast is mostly a solo activity, so it's not really gonna bother you at all, this new system. Then we had a series of additions regarding the Maw and regarding Korthia, since Korthia is going to be in the Maw. They pointed out that they are going to basically be pulling in Covenant strikes, essentially Legion assaults. So the new activities regarding the Maw are going to be these dynamic, essentially world quests happening all over the place. There is going to be a new activity, there is going to be a new currency. Stygia is not going to go away, it's just going to stop and remain the currency for Season 1 items. They're also planning on increasing the rewards you can get as Stygia, just to get everyone who hasn't collected Stygia already get up to speed, particularly with all the benefits you can get with Stygia for Torghast, as well as the movement within the Maw. So they want to speed up the acquisition of Stygia, now that it's for an older season, as well as for Season 2, there's going to be a new currency used for buying and collecting new items. You can say, I guess, it's pretty expected, this type of activity. We have seen this in the Broken Isles, we have seen this in Argus, we have seen this, of course, in the remodeled zones during the assaults in BFA. That's probably what they were aiming at in the first place. You're going to get these Covenant assaults where you're going to be seeing, you know, Maldraxxus and Bastion come together with the Necrolords and Kyrian fighting some bosses, and then you have to come in, tag them AFK and get your Anima or whatever currency they're going to add. That's basically what's going to be. They have also hinted about new ways for countering the Eye of the Jailer in the Maw and in Korthia, because Eye of the Jailer will also be in Korthia. This is particularly important. Korthia is not going to be your run-of-the-mill zone. Remember, it is still part of the Maw. The Eye of the Jailer is still up and running. Interesting how they mentioned no more deaths in Torghast, because you're going to be fighting the Taragru in the raid. However, you're also going to be fighting the Eye of the Jailer in the raid. Yet, the Eye of the Jailer is still going to be active in the Maw. Probably because there are two eyes, so we kill one, but there is one eye still alive. That's my 300 IQ deduction of why we're still getting the Eye of the Jailer active in the Maw and in Korthia. And talking about Maw and Korthia, the mount that is going to be available in both of these zones is going to be happening in a similar way to flying. You're going to be following the Covenant storyline in the Maw and in Korthia, and eventually you're going to be unlock the actual mount, so it's probably going to be 1-2 weeks maybe before you can get to actually mount in the zone. The explanation given was that because now we are assaulting the place, you're basically trying to launch assaults to basically get the big bad guy at the end of the Maw and siege his castle. You don't need to sneak anymore. You don't need to be quiet. You don't need to tiptoe around. You can just straight up mount and just go anywhere. So that's kind of the explanation. Beyond being able to combat the Eye of the Jailer over time, we don't really know much of anything. It was just pointed out that there's going to be a quest line specifically focused to the Eye of the Jailer, how it works and how you can dispel it eventually over time. We don't know what it means. We don't know if it means you can, you know, get to rank 5 and then reset it once a day, something like this, or maybe it's just going to be a slower acquisition of threat from the Eye. We don't know. Just that it's likely going to allow you to stay in the zone for longer. Also, given that there is an entire new zone added to the Maw, Korthia, so it makes sense. They have also given out a rather nebulous answer regarding Covenant swapping restrictions. They basically said, oh yeah, but actually no. That was their answer. The usual, we are looking into it. We are actually very interested about this. We are looking at feedback. We are actually very sensitive about player power. We are really listening and we are trying to feel out how it works. But no, there's not going to be much of any easier swapping in Covenants, at least up to 9.1. The other interesting answer that was given to the question regarding faction imbalance, which feels like is asked every single time there is any type of interaction with Blizzard developers, is the same that me myself have pointed out, which is by this point, this is no longer a balance issue. As a matter of fact, by almost all metrics, Alliance racials are stronger than Horde racials and have been for quite a while. The problem now is a social aspect. The social aspect pointed out that most of the best raiding guilds are Horde, most of the best Mythic Plus players are Horde, so whenever someone wants to get into raiding or wants to get into Mythic Plus, for example, they just go Horde. Doesn't matter if Alliance is the better racials, they just have too few players right now. So the actual answer given is, it's a social problem which will require a social solution. And clearly we don't have any right now. Then, to close out the whole bit of news, we have the Q&A that was happening, the online Q&A. One interesting question regarding the Q&A was the Sylvanas raid boss. So they already pointed out that Sylvanas will be an encounter, that we will fight her, that we will match up with her. They basically avoided in all kinds of ways to mention the word defeat, or slay, or vanquish. Essentially, she's not gonna die, okay? That's the point. But the actual answer was, Sylvanas' fight will be one of the most epic fights ever made in WoW. Also pointed out as a possible spoiler that it will include all of the elements from all of her story, starting from the Ranger General all the way down to Banshee. So expect some 7-phase fight where we go through all of her fucking life, and then at the end we're gonna ask her to sign us her biography. That's probably what's gonna happen. In a very disappointing turn of events, we actually find out from the Q&A that the Archon, the absolutely useless piece of shit leading the Kyrian, actually doesn't die. As usual, typical of games of this caliber for kids, people get stabbed in a very dramatic fashion and then turns out 2 seconds later that they're all fine and nothing happened. Of course. I would resign if I were the Archon, honestly. If this was real world, she would have to resign, honestly. Way too much responsibility for what she did, for what she allowed to happen as the leader of the Kyrian. So in real life, we will probably see her stop getting into the political world and go just travel through all the different TV shows, being an opinionist, being a guest, talking about things she doesn't know anything about, much like all of her rule days in Bastion, as we saw at least once we got there. One of the questions asked in the Q&A was also following the question regarding the faction imbalance, which was as a result of the answer given by the faction imbalance problem regarding whether or not Horde and Alliance were able to raid or do Mythic Plus together. Since one of the answers given regarding the imbalance was the fact that they allowed mercenary mode to work in PvP, okay, then what about the mercenary mode for PvE? And that was basically a no. You know, they pointed out that it's important to retain the Horde and Alliance identity, so it is unlikely that it's going to be the case. There was also a yes, but actually no answer regarding Anima costs. As many of you right now are stockpiling and overstocking in redeemed souls because they have no Anima to actually spend them, we've got one guy asking about the Anima to be increased, the Anima gain to be increased to match up with the costs. The answer was they have been tuning Anima drops from raids and dungeons. Yes, that happened like 3 weeks ago. This guy isn't from the past. He's not asking you a question from 20 days ago. If he's asking the question now, means he already knows the Anima has been increased for raids and dungeons. So the question about Anima being increased is on top of the Anima being increased from raids and dungeons. So this answer is completely useless. They pointed out they are overall looking at the costs, but they wanted to remind the guy, and I guess remind all of us, that the cosmetics are all account-wide. So they cost a lot of Anima because all of the progress you can do on all your characters, once you unlock it on one character, it can be unlocked for all of them. I guess that's their idea on why everything costs so much regarding Anima. That still doesn't answer the question regarding the buildings in your Covenant, costing, 5, 8, 10,000 Anima, when World Quests are giving you 35 or 70. That's the main issue I have with Anima gains. They also shut down some other questions, particularly community favorites. One of the favorites is the character customization. You wouldn't believe if you don't go, and I agree with you, by the way, it's a good choice. If you don't go to the official forums, you wouldn't believe how much people talk about new races and sub races all day long. And Blizzard said no, there is no plans for any more character customization or new additions in Shadowlands, as well as another shutdown regarding 10-man content. They pointed out that, first of all raid content is 10-man content, since you can go in there in flex mode, normal or heroic, and do it as 10-man. But if you want the challenging version, which is the mythic version, the 10-man, then the answer which is a cop-out answer, I'm aware. The 5-player mega dungeons filled the role of 10-man content. I don't know. You could have not said this, man. It's just, come on, it's not good. And these were the most relevant Q&A questions. There were also a bunch of questions regarding TBC, regarding the hashtag SomeChanges. I'm already okay with their hashtag SomeChanges stance regarding TBC, to not repeat the fiasco that was Classic and the approach at their no changes stance wanted by the rabid part of the community, which I will remind everyone again that the rabid part of the community campaigning for no changes are 20-year-olds who never even played vanilla and TBC, so they are clowns as far as I'm concerned. So they are planning some changes like pre-balancing classes instead of waiting months to do it, or giving, as I mentioned already, paladins both seals to not create imbalance, or balancing issues like the Black Lotus farming issue from Burning Crusade and similar other issues to make the game simply better, because you cannot expect to have a same experience that you had 15 years ago anymore, so you have to take some changes. So when we take stock of all of the announcements, particularly happy with the statement regarding the loot in raids. This is something we haven't heard of from yesterday, basically from the first day of BlizzCon, and we haven't heard much before BlizzCon. We just heard the typical, yes, we're looking into it, yes, we are thinking about something, but we haven't actually gotten any proper news. My wish, when I pointed out the news regarding the Mythic Plus loot system, was I just want the raid system, the raid addition, to be coming live before 9.1. Or simply when 9.1 becomes live. I don't want it to be implemented after 9.1, because then it means you have to wait months for 9.2 to have it and see it in effect right as the raid launches. So the fact that we know it's going to come in 9.1 is pretty good. Of course, it might be a completely garbage system that will solve nothing, but we have to have some faith at the very least that something positive is going to come out of it. I guess everyone can be happy with the mount in the Maw, not because you haven't done the Twisting Corridor mount achievement, but rather because with the addition of Korthia, maybe there might have been the slimy Blizzard addition of not letting you mount in Korthia, even though it's the Maw. So they give you the new mount for the Maw, but then they just basically take it away a few months later when there is a new zone in the Maw. At least there is a guaranteed mount in the Maw for both zones. As far as open world content, I mean, it's gonna be assaults. We have seen them before. We know how they work. It's okay, you know. I'm just in general, I'm just more positive for open world content in Shadowlands because there is no guaranteed needed mandatory farming. The Stygia farm we had in the first weeks of the expansion was nowhere close. The amount of hassle you had to put for AP farming in both Legion and BFA. So no matter how much you can complain about Stygia, about the Maw, and how annoying it was, or it is, it's nowhere close to what you had to do in the previous expansions for farming. So yeah, fine, bring some assaults, you know, bring some open world dynamic events that you can join. It's fine. It's not gonna be that big of a deal. So as for me, I'm pretty satisfied with the changes announced. The changes to raids are cool. The new mega dungeon is unexpected this early, but it's fine. 10 boss raid. We don't get an in-between raid. You know, a 3 boss raid. We have had one with Crucible of Storms between BOD and Eternal Palace. We had one in Trial of Valor between Eternal Nightmare and Nighthold. Now we just get another straight up 10 boss raid. I'm a little bit on the fence regarding Soulbinds and Conduits because they haven't really said anything much. They just said, yeah, Soulbinds are going to become longer. You know, they're going to get more lines that you can level into, of course, with your renown, just like it happened up to now, and not much else. I was expecting some more, maybe some more cool things, you know, regarding the Soulbinds and the Conduits. The main thing, though, that you should be happy about is no new systems. You noticed from everything I pointed out that there is no addition to the systems. There is no bounty gear, there is no essences, there is no corruption, there is nothing added to stock on top of what you already have. It's just an extension of your current system that you have available in the game. More rows of Soulbinds, more Conduits, likely more legendaries, higher item level of legendaries, and similar, but nothing extra. So all the systems you have just extended. No new systems to keep track of, no new currency, no new things to farm or grind for a new system. That's, I think, positive for the first big patch of the expansion. So with this, we can call it a day, because it's Sunday and I've got other things to do, mainly just slouching back on my chair and just do nothing all day. See you guys soon, and in the meantime, the Pirate Dragon is in Boralus. Yay.